Hi everyone and welcome back to Ships at Sea. In this guide I'm just going to give a few hints and tips on how to use the NPC crew. This is for version 8.3. There is further development being done, so things could change in the future. As it stands at the moment, only tier 3 ships can use the crew. So let's start by how we would actually hire crew. We have to go to the office. Once we're in the office, we select the crew tab. There's a list of available crew. Just select whoever you want. I'm not sure that the stats actually have any effect for the background history or the rank. I'm not sure they are actually implemented yet. Now you can hire a maximum of 3 crew for the tier 3 fishing boat. However, there's only really any point hiring 2. The engineer slot isn't actually being used yet. So at this point in time, I just hired 2 crew. Once we've hired the crew, we come out the office and we have to go to our company tab. We do that by pressing the tab key. We select company, then we select the crew tab. Select the crew member and you can assign them to the boat you currently have selected. And you can also choose to fire them or unassign them from the boat. So we've assigned these 2 to the boat. Then we go to the crew assignment, and what we have to do is drag them into both those slots under fishing. So technically there's a supervisor and a crew member, which to be honest I'm not a fan of. I'd rather have just 2 crew that could do 2 separate jobs. The engineer slot, as I said, is not being used at the moment. Right, I'll come back to this list of jobs shortly. What we need to now do is make sure we've got the equipment the crew need to do the various jobs. So if we select boat, you can see there's a hook there which you will need if you want your crew to do long line hauling. We also have to put bait on the boat if we want them to bait the lines. And under company we have the gutting knife. Now really that should go under boat, but there's a bug at the moment, but if it goes under company it does still work. I only put 1 gutting knife in because as it stands only 1 NPC crew member will gut at a time. I keep my own gutting knife. There is a way we can actually gut with the NPC crew member, which I will show you. So before we get underway, we'll just go through the various jobs the crew can do. So we go to the crew tab, and again down the right side we have the jobs. So most of these columns are just baiting lines with various things. So depending what bait you've got, you can choose to bait your hooks. The next thing we can do is long line hauling, where the crew pull the line in. You've got the production transfer, and what that means is they will transfer the fish from the box on the deck to the storage for gutting. Then you have the actual gutting job and then storing the fish. So to use a job you can drag them across. I've already had a few jobs over here from last time. So they are numbered. I don't think you can rearrange the jobs, but I don't think actually putting them in any different order actually changes a priority in any way. I think the crew will complete one job before they move to the next job. So if a crew member is gutting, they won't just stop gutting and then come up to haul a long line. So what I'll be doing is I'll be taking away all these jobs and I will just put one job at a time down, and we go through each job The advantages, disadvantages of it, whether or not it's of any use, any bugs we might have come across, and any resolution for those bugs. What I find most of the time is any bugs are almost certainly down to pathfinding issues, where the crew want to do the job, they just can't get there. Okay, we'll get underway now, and I'll jump forward to the fishing area and we'll start going through those jobs. Okay, welcome back. So we're at the fishing area, so we'll get the crew to do the first job. Now what you will notice is I've got a different crew. Unfortunately the game crashed on my way out, so I had to reload it. So I'll get rid of all these other jobs. We'll just give them one job at a time. So we set up baiting with shrimp, and it says bait not available, and the reason for that is when the game crashed I bought more bait but I haven't transferred it across, so what I need to do is move this back onto the boat. And what we're looking for is we should see a crew member walking round towards the buckets at the back, and they should bait 2 buckets and place them on the deployer. Don't know what that would be called. They'll only do 2 buckets, and then the idea is that you have to come down and actually manually deploy that line. So what we'll do, we'll just nip down, we'll deploy a line, and then once that line's deployed fully, they should automatically walk back across and bait another bucket. So we'll have a look, see how it works. So we'll just drop that one, and then we'll get the boat moving. What I will do is I will just speed up time a little bit, just get this line deployed. Okay, so that's the last buoy deployed. So what we're looking for now is we go to the crew, and we can still see the little green box there with the long line fishing. It's telling us they're still baiting the bucket, and sure enough, she baits another one and puts it on. So that's actually worked. Sometimes what happens, the pathfinding fails, so although the box is green, they actually will not walk across there. They've got trapped, and the only way you can deal with that really is either to save and then reload the game. That will free up the pathfinding. Someone did say if you were stationary while they bait it could help, but kind of defeats the point of having a crew if you have to stop. So that's baiting the pots. So what we'll do now is we'll move on to hauling the line. Okay, so we're ready to haul in. I've on the crew tab I've set long line hauling as the job, so all we have to do is line up. Now one thing I've noticed is that really the crew should be near the hauler, because on a rough day like this I get next to a buoy, I can't stay there very long, and the crew member's got to walk all the way from the back of a boat. Really when that circle appears, what I'd like to do is that the crew member is standing by the hauler, so as soon as I get onto it they grab that buoy. Now as you can see that person is glitched, so I've got a feeling they will not pick this up. So if that happens, what we do is we simply reload the game. We save the game. So I'll just overwrite an old save, and then we reload the game, and that will basically reset the pathfinding, and it should work. It's a workaround, it's not ideal. Personally, again, rather than have these crew walking around on the bridge, what I would prefer is that they just stayed in their bunks or down below and simplify the pathfinding, make it easier for them to go to their station rather than have to wander around the bridge. I'd rather a simpler version of pathfinding and it actually works. So you see I've reloaded the game and that person hopefully is not going to walk straight back to where they were. No, they're moving around. So now when we get onto this buoy, it should hopefully work. Now the reason I put transfer from a production line is because what I found, certainly on my previous attempt, is whenever I hauled, the person hauling would then automatically empty the bleed bin every single time they put a fish in it. So actually that transfer to the production line job actually doesn't do anything. It's already being done. Whether or not that's a bug, I don't know. But we'll have a look and see what happens when we get onto this buoy. So again, I'm a little bit rusty. Okay, so we're coming up. We should get on it now, hopefully. And again, I want that member of crew there, but they're not there. So now what I have to do is I have to stay on this buoy. I can see the member of crew coming across, but I've got to stay on that buoy long enough for them to get here. There they come. There they are. Okay, and then they will start hauling, but as I said, you've got to stay on my buoy long enough for them to get from wherever they are. So what the crew member should do is hook the fish, take it across to the bleed box, and then come back and hook another fish. They sometimes take a little bit of a weird way round, but there goes the fish. But you can see they empty the production line, and that's not selected as a job. It's actually not a massive problem. Occasionally, if they go really far around like that, occasionally they will miss hooking a fish, but for the most part they get back just in time to pick up the next fish. So it's not really much of a problem, but it does sort of negate the whole point of having that transfer production line as a job. So we'll let them finish hooking, and then we'll move on to the next job, which will be gutting. So we're in the gutting room, so we've switched to the crew tab. We'll remove long hauling and we'll select gutting as the job. And what we would expect is the box to immediately go green, which it has. And here comes a crew member already, and they're off. Again, if you have problems with this, it's almost certainly down to the pathfinding. So the best way to do that, if you haven't problems with pathfinding, again, just reload the game. So what I'm going to try and do is see if I can gut with them. There's a second gutting table, so I select. I tried to reach over there, but I couldn't get to a fish. And what the person will do is they will just take that fish next door. If you put it on my belt, they'll pick that up. So initially I was struggling. I thought, okay, obviously I can't get there to get the fish. It says table occupied. But what I realised is actually, even though the fish doesn't seem to appear in front of you, if you actually select the area in front of you, you can get the fish to appear on your table. There. So just select that. I think I missed that one, but I'll try it again. So I go across, select that area. There you go. I've got the fish in front, so I can help them gut. So that's actually a bit of a bonus for me. So obviously if you've got a lot of gutting to do and you want to get it done quickly, and especially because I've got a better gutting knife, I might get a slightly better bonus. I can gut, and then that fish drops up onto the belt and moves along, and I can get another one if I want. So that is one way you can gut simultaneously with the NPC. As I said, you can't have two NPCs gutting, which is a shame because a lot of the time I look at that supervisor and they're not doing anything. I'd rather have just two separate crew members where I could simply assign them to different jobs, one to hauling, one to gutting, rather than that supervising. I'm not sure that actually serves any real purpose. But we'll let them finish gutting, we'll just help them out with the rest of it, speed things along, and once they finish gutting, we move to the final part, which is storage. So that's the last fish going in. So now we simply go to the crew and we switch them to storage. We'll remove a gutting job. Obviously you don't have to do that, but I like to just do one job at a time for purposes of this guide. And then, yep, there we go, straight away storing. And you can definitely help them store fish. So if you want to get in there, there's a lot of fish to be stored. You can go in there as well. It's fairly efficient on our own. Yeah, I'm hoping they will bring the button back, which actually stores the fish, because that looks a total mess in there. So I'm hoping they bring a button back which will store the fish so it keeps it tidy. There are bunks. That's where I think the crew should just wait. I'd rather see the crew there just chilling in their bunks, relaxing, than actually sort of standing on the deck. Especially if it helps with pathfinding. Okay, let's get in there. We can definitely help out as long as I remember where to put the fish. And job done. So that's all the jobs done. So in this last section, I'll just explain how I would use the crew as of version 8.3. I wouldn't use any of the baiting options, since I can bait all the buckets while the boat is actually heading towards the fishing ground, and I can bait every bucket, and I've got to go down there to launch them anyway, so it doesn't really save any time. I don't use the production transfer. As I said, they automatically do that anyway. So what I would probably do is either just have gutting and storing as an option. So while I'm transferring to the next one and hauling the fish in, someone is down below, one is gutting, and then they immediately go to storing. So I can just focus on the hauling, especially with the automatic hauler is quite useful. Or I might get them to do hauling, gutting and storing, particularly if it's a little bit of a journey from one buoy to the other. Then by the time they finish gutting, I can always they finish their job, they're ready to go hauling, because I don't know if for example they're gutting, I don't know if they will drop that and then come to do hauling. I don't think there's a priority on job. I think once they're doing a job, they will completely finish that job. So really, when I'm on these boats, what I'm trying to do is basically want to keep the boat moving and getting from one buoy to the other. Anyway, that's the end of this guide. Hope you've enjoyed it, found it really useful. As always, any comments or any suggestions, any ideas you've got, please leave below. Always good to hear from you. Until next time, take care of yourselves. Thanks for watching.